What's up? Welcome into today's episode of Pushing the Pile. Mike Renner, Kyle Long, as always here. And today on the show, we're rolling through our all-pro projections for the upcoming season. Obviously, we'll go through who won it last year and give our sort of, explanation for why we think said guy is going to win. So let's jump right into it. Kyle, we're going to go offense, defense, and special teams at the end. We got a little help with the special teams, but we'll start off at the most valuable position in the NFL. We'll start off with the quarterback. Lamar Jackson was your all-pro last year. A little bit of a surprise, right? Because Josh Allen won the MVP, but Lamar Jackson counterintuitively was the all-pro first team at the position. Who are you going with for 2025, Kyle?
I'm going to go with Lamar Jackson again. And as you've heard me say on our podcast over the course of the last few months, I really believe in this Ravens team. And obviously, they've built it up on the defensive side of the ball. But Lamar hasn't taken a step back. And when I first started watching Lamar Jackson in the NFL, I said, this isn't sustainable. It's kind of the same train of thought I creep into when Jaden Daniels takes a cartoon character hit. But Lamar finds a way to avoid those hits, and they're kind of glancing blows. And he's so bright and puts himself in so many good positions. I don't see a scenario where Lamar Jackson's not going to be playing for the Baltimore Ravens. And as you said, it went down to the wire with him and Josh Allen. But this is my MVP this year. This is my Super Bowl contender this year. Lamar Jackson and first team All Pro.
Yeah, the one thing I love about this Ravens team, specifically on the offense side of the ball, is they didn't lose a single player. Everyone's back. Everyone that was meaningful. All their starters are back. And they even added like depth along the offensive line. Keaton Mitchell should be back healthy now as a backup running back. There's even more at his disposal this year. So for the Baltimore Ravens, yeah, it's hard to bet against Lamar Jackson. I will, though. I'm going elsewhere for my quarterback pick. I like Joe Burrow, Cincinnati Bengals quarterback. I've said before, I think he's my MVP this season. I think he would have been in the mix last year. Were his team just better? And I think that slow start that this Bengals team is known for, I think it's not happening this year. Everyone got paid. Everyone's there. Everyone's been there all camp. Joe Burrow's healthy, happy. They are going to shake those week 1, week 2 woes. Think about how they lost to the Patriots week 1 last year. That ain't happening this year. Fast start. And if he goes on a fast start, I mean, he led the league in passing yards last year, led the league in passing touchdowns. The fact that he has a bad defense still is almost going to work in his favor because he's going to be slinging it late into the fourth quarter. He is going to put up numbers that are going to be difficult to argue against. So a guy who's never been a first team all pro, where obviously Lamar has, Josh Allen has, I believe, Mahomes has. I think this is the year that Joe Burrow gets himself an all pro.
Dude, I mean, while I'm in agreement with you, and I was one of the only bi-coastal media elite that was standing on the table for Joe Burrow to be, at the very least, in the conversation for MVP last year. Look, if it happens again with the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to say, Joe, you can exclude yourself from the conversation because we're about winners here at the top of the list, whether it's MVP or All-Pro. Look, I understand he's got a reigning Triple Crown receiver, and T. Higgins is healthy. But at the end of the day, this is Lamar Jackson's award. Joe, I'm sorry.
Hey, we'll see. Either way, AFC North represented well. All right, let's get the running back position where Saquon Barkley, obviously your pick a season ago, went for over 2,000 yards. You're not straying too far from the tree here going Saquon again.
No, I mean, there's no reason to because a lot of these guys that I'm going to be naming are really in the heyday, the height of their career. And a lot of these future Hall of Famers are going to have these stretches where it's 4, 5, 6 years of dominance. I think about a guy like Zach Martin, who just retired this past year. He had a stretch there where there wasn't even a conversation. He was your all pro. And I think we're in Saquon Barkley's time right now. And you couple his success with the offensive line talent in Philadelphia and the fact that they are reigning Super Bowl champions. I think he's almost a shoo-in to win the thing, regardless of what Derrick Henry does. And unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. There's only so many seats, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be hard to bet against him. Anytime, for every single year he's on the Eagles, it's going to be difficult to bet against him because the offensive line in front of him, it's just going to be elite. I mean, even if Lane Johnson retires, even if guys get hurt, their depth is so insane that Saquon's going to put up big numbers. But I'm going to go a little differently again. And it's a guy who was right there in the mix a year ago. It's Derrick Henry. I think a lot of people forget, given Saquon's dominance, Derrick Henry had the 11th most rushing yards in NFL history last year. He had 1,921 yards he finished with. This guy had a monster season. He now has the fifth highest total in a single season and the 11th highest total in a single season. No one else has two top 11 seasons ever NFL history. He's the only one. Barry Sanders is the only one with two top 15.
And
So
they're
obviously a
not
nice
back to
feather in his
back, are
cap.
they, Mike? They're
They were
spread
not.
out
They
a
were
little
five
bit.
years
I mean,
apart.
that's what's
They're 4 years
unbelievable.
apart.
That's what I'm saying. Some of these guys just they take the throne, Game of Thrones style, and they just sit on it for a while.
Yeah, and you see there on the graphic, 30 years or older, the most all time. Well, 2004 there, Curtis Martin was 31 when he did it. I think he breaks the 31-year-old record as well as having broken Tiki Barber's 30-year-old record. And because of that, it's going to be difficult not to give him the All-Pro if he goes for 1,900 plus again. And given his workout regimens, given just who he is as an athlete, given how he keeps himself in shape, spending over $500,000 a year on his body, I just think he does it. And again, like I said, off with the Lamar Jackson conversation, everyone back on that Ravens offense. They are running it back wholesale, and that's good news when you can run it back along the offensive line. All right, we're skipping fullback, sadly, where Patrick Ricard was your winner a year ago, and going right to wide receiver, where
Okay, so
last
for the
year
wide receiver, yeah, I mean,
it was Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, Amon-Ra St. Brown. Who you got this year?
look, I mean, I wrote in two names, and I'm going to keep one of them, and I'm sure I've got a graphic for one of the names that I didn't intend to have. But look, Jamar Chase is unbelievable, and we are living in Jamar Chase's world. And when you are the first read for arguably the best thrower of the football in the NFL, you are going to put up ridiculous numbers. And I was just listening into the Early Edge podcast, and they were just making the great point of, look, if the defense continues to be a weak point, which, hey, here's a secret. It's going to continue to be a weak point in a story all season long. This offense is going to be tasked with picking up the slack, and they do have the horses to do it. And number one is the guy for the job. Now, the other guy that I'm going to name is Justin Jefferson, but Justin Jefferson's got a towel around his neck and he's riding the Aerodyne bike instead of running routes right now. Look, I understand he's got some tightness. These things linger. I believe it's a hamstring for Justin Jefferson. If I were to be a betting man, I would say somebody would overtake him this year. You couple Justin Jefferson with JJ McCarthy, that unknown is big. And then there's the up and comers. Obviously, there's some guys with new coaches. There's some guys with some weapons around them. I think about Jacksonville with BTJ. And who's going to step up? Could be CeeDee Lamb this year if the Cowboys go on a run. Don't let CeeDee Lamb get hot with George Pickens as his Robin. You never know, but obviously the one guy I would bet on is Jamar Chase.
Yeah, Chase is a shoe. I got Chase as well. And it is a decidedly LSU themed wide receiver position, my first team All Pro, but not Justin Jefferson. I worry one about the hamstring, two about JJ McCarthy, and just how that pairing is going to necessarily work out. Just a little too much of an unknown for me. Whereas I know Malik Neighbors is going to get fed the football in New York this season. There is not a lot of guys competing for targets for him in that Giants offense, whether it's screens, whether it's deep balls from Russell Wilson. He'll catch 120 balls. He'll go for 1,500 yards. I feel very confident in that. And then the last guy, obviously I kind of gave it away with the LSU, hopefully here, Brian Thomas Jr. Second year, first year in the league, he was top 3 in the league in receiving yards. Second year, now with Liam Cohen as his OC, hopefully Trevor Lawrence healthy for the full season. I see big things in Brian Thomas Jr.'s future. So because of that, those are my 3 receivers for the All-Pro team. All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, we got tight ends and offensive line picking our All-Pro selections for 2025 right after this. All right, we did wide receivers, running backs, quarterbacks in the first block, picking our all pros. Now we're rolling with the tight end position, where last year it was rookie Brock Bowers, and this year we're both riding with second year Brock Bowers because we've seen the training camp highlights, Kyle. We know that Ball Brock is going to be on another level this season.
Yeah, and I mean, somebody that stepped into the National Football League and made it look this easy, there haven't been many guys that have done it. And we always talk about rookies, the game's too fast, you run into the rookie wall. Brock never sniffed it. And I think it's part of the reason is because of the competition that he played against at the University of Georgia in the SEC, and also just the fact that he was that guy that was the red star in every defensive meeting. We have to know where Brock Bowers is. He's used to this type of attention. So I think that him being a star immediately was great. But I think what's even better is there will be no second year slump. There will be no letdown. He is seeing the fastball. And with Chip Kelly in town, Geno Smith having the ability to distribute the football wherever, whenever, Brock Bowers might even have a better season than he did last year.
He should, right? I mean, you're going from Aiden O'Connell, Gardner Minshew to Geno Smith. Just that's simple math to me. He's going to put up some big time numbers. You got any advice for how to keep the dome shiny though? Because
I would say this.
you're uniquely qualified to talk on this.
Number one, you're gonna have to get a stick to beat the ladies off with because bald is beautiful. Okay, they just love the baldies. I think Brock probably is gonna have no problem there. But I would say this: shave it every 3 days, every 4 days, because once it gets past that 3 day mark, you start to look like you might need a couple sessions with a therapist or I've been there before. My hair gets long. It's an indication of my general disposition. Keep it tight, and that keeps your game tight as well.
Let's move on to the offensive line, where I love that the All Pro now. It was a few years back when they did it, but they specify positions. You can't just pick two left tackles. You got to pick a left tackle, a left guard, a center, a right guard, and a right tackle. And their left tackle last year was Tristan Wirfs. Your left tackle this year, Kyle, you're going Tristan Wirfs.
Yeah, and I feel like this offense isn't going to have a letdown at all. There's a lot of question marks about how they're going to be able to adjust without Liam Cohen. It's kind of the JV version of what we've heard coming out of Detroit this offseason. How will they be able to rebound? But you take a look at Baker Mayfield and his track record and the pelts he has on his wall. They're all different animals and different colors, okay? The guy has done this thing a bunch of different ways. And if Tristan Wirfs is healthy, I fully anticipate this receiver room being one of the most dangerous in the National Football League. Obviously, they got some injury concerns in there, but they've got so much depth and so many talented players. This passing offense is going to be big. And that gentleman right there, that 340-pound creamsicle, is going to be the reason that Baker Mayfield is safe and protected. And in the run game, if they need a nasty yard in a creative way, they can put him anywhere on the football field. I love watching Tristan Wirfs play. He is the epitome of he is all that is man.
Yeah, to me, he is the best left tackle in the NFL, but we're not picking the best left tackle in the NFL. And when he's banged up heading into this season, I am picking the guy who I think is going to win the All Pro. And because of that, I'm going Laramie Tunsil, the guy who was traded this offseason from Houston to Washington. And what do we know about pass protecting for a guy like Jaden Daniels, Kyle?
You never know where he's going to be, first and foremost. The thing that I like about Jade Daniels is the ball is out. A lot of young quarterbacks, and we saw it in Chicago last year, they're back there with a campfire. They're cooking s'mores. Get the ball out, and nobody is going to remind Jaden Daniels of that more than his veteran left tackle, Laramie Tunsil.
Gets the ball out, and you can't inside move against an offensive tackle when you got a Jaden Daniels there. You can't. You got to contain rush. You cannot let this guy outside the pocket. And when an offensive lineman doesn't have to, or offensive tackle specifically, doesn't have to worry too much about that inside move, it just makes your life a lot easier. And I think that's going to help
Such a good
him
point,
immensely.
Mike. It's such a good point. So what are the most dangerous situations? So like if you're a defender, where do you not want to have a guy like Patrick Mahomes to the defense's left breaking contain? So to the offense's right, Mitch Schwartz, while he didn't invite the inside rush, he would use that inside rush jujitsu style against you, and he would be able to lock you down. Patrick had a feeling for it, and when he was able to break contain to the right side, that's when the explosion happened. So for Jaden Daniels and Laramie Tunsil, once they get that understanding, I mean, look, Laramie's on his blind side. So Jaden's going to have to get a feel for that. He's not going to have an eyeball on it, but through film and understanding what his vet left tackle is going to do, watch out for those explosive plays with Jaden rolling left, ducking out left, and throwing that thing.
Let's get to left guard position, where last year it was Joe Thuney in Kansas City. This year, you're going familiar face in a new place.
Yeah, I'm going Joe Thuney again. And look, The guy's boring. And if you've been keeping up on social media at all, you got to get a look into what a player like Ed Oliver gets to experience when he is going up against a guy like Joe Tooney in one-on-ones. He's an unsuspecting stone wall. And if I were to make a comparison, a cross-sport comparison for a guy like Joe Tooney, it's Tim Duncan. Okay, these are abilities and skills that do not diminish until the very end of his career because his technique, his attention to detail, his intelligence, I see no letdown. I also have an understanding that he is part of a new regime in Chicago, and he is the guy who carries the torch at the front of that offense. I fully anticipate he's going to have a career year. He's been great everywhere he's been. He's won championships in the places he's been. He does not intend on stopping that now.
I'm gonna go with the young buck. I'm gonna go with a guy who I think is gonna win his first All Pro. I'm gonna go with Tyler Smith, left guard, Dallas Cowboys, because last year, year three, year four is kind of when guards, centers, offensive linemen start coming into their prime. You see a lot of third, fourth year breakouts. He didn't quite have that. But I think it's because he was dealing with brand new players to his left and right. He had two rookies that he had
Tackling
to
center,
bring up
yeah.
to speed. He all of a sudden was the elder statesman with those two on double teams, combos, things of that nature. They're both back. This is year two of that now. Trio there on the left side with the center included with Cooper Beebe. So I think he's back to the form we know. And also, like, he wants an extension. A lot of those guys want extensions in Dallas, but he's coming up. This is year four with the fifth year option after this. He wants that big money that Trey Smith just got. And I think you're going to see the best from Tyler Smith because of that. And the dude's only 24 years old. He was a third year player coming out, super young. I think he should be coming into his
24
own
years
this
old,
season.
contract year, no income tax. Woo!
Get ready. All right, center. Creed Humphrey was your winner last year, and we're going to be very boring because we're in the Creed Humphrey era. This is
Run it
like
back.
It's like when Nick Mangold was in his prime. Just pretty much you could set your clock to that guy being the all-pro center. That's how I feel about Creed Humphrey right now.
I'm glad you brought up Nick Mangold because at every Pro Bowl there was just a chair with Nick Mangold's name on it. Like they knew he was coming. They had his suite set up. They knew what kind of chocolates he liked on his pillow. That's Creed Humphrey. Get used to it. And in a world of offensive line, a brave new world of offensive line where personalities show and guys have the ability to be forward facing. I remember Aaron Rodgers had all the guys on pitch perfect. It was Josh Sitton, TJ Lang, even guys like Clay Matthews. Look, O-linemen are stars now. Jason Kelsey made that clear. Even the center position. Creed Humphrey is the next iteration of a Jason Kelsey. Just wait till we hear Creed Humphrey on podcasts. But the football end of it, he kicks ass in the A gap. He's tough as nails. He's a championship winner. He's Patrick Mahomes' trusted man. Look, if things go well in the run game in Chicago or in Kansas City, it's because of Creed Humphrey.
Yeah, he's the easy choice here. And right guard, we're not straying too far either. Quinn Miners, your winner a year ago. We're both rolling with Quinn Miners yet again. Although I wanted to go Dominic Puny. I wanted to go 49ers second year right guard Dominic
Not
Puny.
yet.
But
Second team
Miners is
All
just
Pro.
Miners is dominant. He's at that level right now that it's going to take, knock on wood, injury to rob him of an all pro. He's just at that level.
Yeah, you said it. I mean, he's built like a little ox. I mean, I think half of being a good guard is being built like a good guard. I think good guards are born. He's definitely one. First time I saw this guy, I was like, he's built for leverage. He's thick, he's strong, and he's nasty. And you talk to any of these guys in the Denver Broncos building, and they rave about his approach. They rave about his ability to connect with all of his teammates. I think that's special. And then obviously the football side, he kicks ass. Sean Payton's offense demands a lot of the interior three. He lives up to that billing.
All right, final position, right tackle. Penei Sewell was your winner a year ago, but we thought it should have been Lane Johnson, and we're both rolling with Lane Johnson. I'm buying the quote from this offseason where he said he feels as good as he's ever felt in his career at 36 years old. He looks it. He looks it, and I expect nothing to change this season.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. And I remember coming out in 2013 and we ran the 40 after one another at the combine. And it was the first time that I was humbled physically in my career. And it wasn't even from playing against a guy who was better than me. It was just standing next to a man who was different than me. And it's been that way the entire career for Lane Johnson. And there's no letdown. A guy who is as talented as he is technically sound and you marry those two things in at the offensive line position, you're in a really, really great spot.
All right, those are all pro picks for the O line. We're going to flip over to the defensive side of the ball coming up right after this. All right, we're rolling through our picks for the all-pro team in 2025. We rolled through offense the first couple blocks. We're hitting the defensive line now, starting with the edge position. Love that they've changed it to edge too. I hated when we had J.J. Watt getting all-pro at like two different spots because they couldn't get their
Linebacker.
you-know-what together.
It had a
Yeah,
linebacker getting an award at defensive. Yeah, it's all backwards.
it was awful, but they fixed it, thankfully.
Yep.
More people need to take notes from that. We'll start last year. It was Myles Garrett. It was Trey Hendrickson. This year, we're not straight. We know Myles Garrett's going to be back up on that podium, but we're differing. You're going TJ Watt. I'm going Aiden Hutchinson. Why TJ Watt?
First, I want to say the reporter that asked Myles Garrett the question, he said, "What did it feel like when you were speeding at 100?" I would ask him, "What does it feel like when you're out there just playing against toddlers every week?" That's why Myles Garrett is on the list. It just looks like the guy comes from a different planet. He came here from Krypton or wherever the hell Superman came from. And the other guy that I put down is TJ Watt because similar to a guy like Joe Tooney, even if TJ Watt loses a step, okay, and he's not as quick or as strong or as fast as he once was. The guy's situational awareness is unmatched. And even if you go and can get hands on a guy like, we're not blocking Myles Garrett, by the way, but even if you can get your hands on TJ Watt and try to sit him down and pass rush, just like his brother JJ, he is as good at clogging up throwing lanes, going for the football. Instead of just going for the sack, this guy is trying to get the football back. Um, I remember Charles Tillman was on my team my rookie year, and that was like the big point of emphasis, go for the football. That's why I love TJ Watt. He is the wave that continues to hit the beach. Give me TJ as another all pro.
Yeah, see, I want Hutchinson because this is maybe wishful thinking. The injury he had was pretty gruesome, obviously, the broken tib fib. Not one you just come back from, but reports are that he's back, that he doesn't look like at this point in time that he's showing big signs of that injury still. And through 5 games, I guess it was 4 games, he had 45 pressures last year before that injury. He was not only on his way to an all-pro, I think I was going to win Defensive Player of the Year if he kept up that pace the entire season. So if he truly is back, now he is in a bad division to rush the passer. It's the best right tackle division in football. He only rushes off that left side going up against right tackle. So not a great matchup for him, but if he's that dominant, I'm not sure it really matters in the long run. All right, defensive line, defensive interior now, where a year ago it was Cam Hayward, it was Chris Jones, but it really was only those two because the one guy we both agreed on, actually we agreed on both these guys, but one guy we both agreed on who wasn't on it, well, he only played 10 games. Dexter Lawrence, Chris Jones, those are both our picks.
Yep. I had for Chris Jones, he has to look around and say, where is the reinforcements? Where are the guys up front? The other horses, oh, it's just me. That's why they paid me so much money. And for the Kansas City Chiefs, they're going to have to rely on Big 95. And he's a leader and a guy that guys look up to. And he's somebody that can really be a lightning rod for that defensive room. And he always finds a way to make big plays in big situations. I think this offense will come along this year. They'll look even better than they did last year. And he's going to have more opportunities, advantageous opportunities to go and rush the passer. So in terms of sack numbers, they weren't up last year where he would like, but I can promise you Sack Nation, the president of Sack Nation, will be back in the White House this year.
Yeah, Chris Jones he's the best pass rushing DT. That's just like full stop. But Dexter Lawrence, I cannot wait. We've hyped up this Giants defensive line maybe too much at this point, but I can't wait to see what he does because he was a one-man wrecking crew, 2 years ago when it was just him and like rookie Kayvon Thibodeau. Now he has real deal guys to take pressure off him. He has guys who will affect quarterbacks in their own right, in Abdul Carter and Brian Burns, and in a more advanced now, Kayvon Thibodeau. It's a scary defensive line, and I think he could get double-digit sacks at the nose tackle position, which would just be an absurdity because that's the other crazy thing. It's like this guy is a 1-0. He does not move outside the guards. Most of your sack production on the interior comes outside the guards just because by virtue of your alignment, you're double teamed far more often if you're rushing the A gaps. He
I'll tell
seemingly
you, dude,
doesn't matter to him. Doesn't matter
he's
to him.
going to create 30 sacks for his
Yeah.
team. What people don't realize is, the sexy position is the edge rusher because when you're watching on TV, you're watching from the sideline, you get to see them beat tackles and quarterbacks go into turtle mode. But what you don't understand is the integrity of the dish. And when I say the dish, I'm talking about the pocket, okay? The center, the two guards right here, and then the tackles behind them. If you've got a spear sticking through your A gap, you are going to get flushed as a quarterback. And when you've got the tandem of that internal pressure and chaos of Dexter Lawrence on the inside, he's going to just run these guys. It's like hunting dogs. You're just running them right to your edge rushers. Okay, this is great. And yeah, he's going to get a lot of sacks. He's going to create a lot more than that.
Now, let's get to the linebacker position where last year it was Zach Bond of Philadelphia Eagles, Fred Warner of the 49ers, and Roquan Smith of the Baltimore Ravens. You're running it back. I mean, they are Warner and Roquan, I think, have been kind of atop the linebacker hierarchy for a few years now. Obviously, Zach Bond joins it last season. I don't see any reason he takes a step back, though. I like your picks, but I'm going to give you give your explanation, then I'll give my one guy I differed from and why I picked him after that.
I know where you're headed, and I love it. Okay, but for me, Fred Warner, until you take the crown off his head, he's still going to be an All-Pro. It's like that Zach Martin conversation. And then for Roquan Smith, look, he's part of such a fantastic defense. He is the heartbeat of the defense in the middle. He's somebody that sets the tone. He's a real identity guy. And Zach Bond, obviously, I don't expect any letdown. As a matter of fact, I think he's more comfortable this year in his second opportunity to go play off-ball linebacker in Vic Fangio's defense. All these guys are leaders. All these guys are imperative to their team's success, and they are the quintessential linebackers.
All right, the one guy I went different. I kicked off Roquan Smith. Sorry, Roquan, you've had enough of these. We're
Oh,
going
no.
Edgerrin Cooper of the Green Bay Packers. We haven't picked a ton of breakout guys. We haven't picked a ton of up and comers. I think from what I saw from him down the stretch, he joins that stratosphere this season. He is one of the twitchiest athletes you'll ever see at linebacker. He can blitz. He had a pass breakup like 40 yards down the field last year. He can run with wide receivers. Really has the complete skill set to play linebacker in today's NFL. Because of that, because how much he's necessary for that Green Bay defense, I think he just puts up numbers this year. And I think he joins the All-Pro. So,
Yo, and he played in half the games. If you double his stats, it's ridiculous. The stats he had
yes.
last year in half the games were like abnormally good.
All right, there you have it. Our front seven picks for All Pro. We're flipping over to the secondary coming up right after this. We're rolling through our All Pro picks for the 2025 NFL season. We've hit every position outside of secondary and, well, special teams. We'll get to that later. But we're rolling through the secondary here, starting with the cornerback position where Pat Surtain, your defense player of the year, obviously also an All-Pro last year, Derek Stingley Jr., your other All-Pro corner. And then your slot corner was Marlon Humphrey from Baltimore, who he switched to slot week 11. I think that was kind of BS, in my opinion. To be a slot All-Pro, you got to be a slot All-Pro. You got to be there from the beginning. But give us yours for the outside corner in your slot, and then we can debate that after.
Now, this is like me talking cornerbacks is like me taking you to a fantastic Michelin star sushi restaurant and telling you how you're supposed to behave or hold the chopsticks. This is a little bit out of my jurisdiction. So what I'm doing is I'm going chalky here. PS2 and Stingley Jr. Look, let's not change much, okay? These guys are lockdown players, and they seem to be, by all accounts, and all the smart people I talk to, the best at what they do. And obviously, there's a few other guys with some injury concerns that could have been in contention for this award. But these dudes are healthy. They're on fantastic teams. Everybody in America is going to be watching these defenses week in, week out. What more do you want, Mike?
Yeah, I'm with you with PS2. To me, he is the gold standard. To most people, he's the gold standard at corner right now. I don't see that changing, especially when you got the pass rush they do. it just makes your life easier to play corner. Brian McFadden talks about that a lot. It's very, very true. The other guy I'm going with, though, I'm not going Derek Stingley Jr. I'm not predicting like a backslide. I'm thinking this one guy who's been an All-Pro before is back to form, and it's Jair Alexander going to the Baltimore Ravens. I think it's a perfect situation for him. Obviously, it's a loaded secondary, but if he's just healthy, because when he's been healthy, he's still playing at a high level, but just hasn't been for like 3 years now. When he is, and I think he's going to want to be kind of on a prove it deal there in Baltimore, I think you're going to see the best from Jair Alexander. So PS2, Jair Alexander. And then my slot, full-time slot. He ain't going playing anywhere else this year, hopefully. Cooper DeJean, Philadelphia Eagles. Guy who was in the mix, like firmly in the mix last year. I thought got robbed of it. I thought he was playing as well as any slot in the NFL. Obviously a rookie, didn't get the respect he deserves. He's earning it this year. Everyone saw the pick six in the Super Bowl. Everyone sees what he's capable of. He's finally going to get it. To me, though, there's like a triumvirate of corners in the slot right now. It's him, it's Devon Witherspoon in Seattle, and it's the guy you picked, Trent McDuffie, that are like as good as it gets in the league as it stands.
Yeah, and I mean, I really love how Spags uses Trent McDuffie and uses all of his weapons defensively. And I'm glad you put Trent McDuffie out there as well. This guy has been nailed since the day he arrived in Kansas City, and I fully anticipate him having another one of those seasons. Look, Spags defenses, they're predictable and they get really heady guys on the back end who can do a number of different things and have success with it. With a guy like Justin Reed out the building, there's kind of this void in veteran presence or a guy who's seen it all. And although Trent McDuffie is not a veteran by any standard, he's tenured at this point, and I think a lot's going to be asked of him. And obviously, that slot position is of the utmost importance. It's where all of the things happen with these guys who can do anything at the receiver position.
Yeah, once like the young pup on a Super Bowl team, he's the elder statesman now in this Chiefs secondary. He's the guy that's been around the block. All the guys that were there, Charvarius Ward, that was a while ago, but Charvarius Ward, Eric Reed out the building, L'Jarius Sneed, like all these other guys seemingly now gone, kind of last man standing, but obviously still playing at an elite level there in the slot. Now let's get to the safety position, where last year we saw Kirby Joseph and we saw Xavier McKinney, the Green Bay Packers, first year there, B-year All Pros. Who you got for us this year, Kyle?
First off, I love Kirby Joseph, and I started off hating Kirby Joseph because I'm an offensive player, and he crushed a lot of offensive players' hopes and dreams. Okay, sent them to the training room. But I'm going to put Xavier McKinney, obviously extremely productive at that center field position. You and I like Halfley. I'm not sure they have the horses up front to be able to further those statistics or, increase them. I don't see a lot of errant throws being as the result of the edge rush unit in Green Bay, but Xavier McKinney proved it to us last year. The other guy is Kyle Hamilton. He's do it all. He's the archetype for the position. He's big time involvement in the pass game, obviously, in the run game. His length, his mobility, it sets him apart from everybody else. And you and I have talked about how this defense has found a way to get even better through the draft and bringing in guys like Jair Alexander. You have to think it only makes Kyle Hamilton that much more dangerous in this group.
Yeah, Hamilton was that guy who was slot early on last year. We talked about the move that made Marlon Humphrey an All-Pro. I think the move screwed Kyle Hamilton. I think he should have been an All-Pro last year. He was playing at that sort of level. I thought it last year should have been the guys who I picked for this year. I thought it should have been Brian Branch. I thought they got the wrong lion. And now maybe you don't pick Brian Branch because of he kept getting kicked out of games, right? Like he had a few times there, like multiple times, he got called for, the NFL's version of targeting, got popped. Yes, he's a big hitter. He does not shy away from contact, sometimes borderline dirty, but he is so damn good at the safety position. If you wanted to play slot, this guy would be right in that mix for the All-Pro at slot, but they moved him safety last year, thrived. I think he is the best football IQ of anyone in the NFL right now. That guy sees the game so well. Those safeties do so much work for the Detroit Lions on the back end, the best safety tandem in football. But Kyle Hamilton is just different cat. To me, he is the best safety because of what he is physically, because he's 6'4", 220, because that guy comes down the box and all of a sudden that's your will linebacker, right? He goes deep. All of a sudden he's your single high safety. There is no one that can fill as many roles on a defense the way Kyle Hamilton can. And so for him to not have an all-pro yet, it's criminal. Criminal in my eyes.
There was a
That changes
gentleman
this
by
year.
the name of there was a gentleman by the name of Cam Chancellor, okay, who played for the Seattle Seahawks. And when you're out there on the field and nobody's in their jerseys, nobody's wearing their numbers, you're like, who the hell is that guy? I've never seen an edge rusher look like that before. And then you break the offensive huddle and he's standing like 15 yards away from you. You got to be aware of those type of physical presences. Kyle Hamilton is just that for this defense.
All right. There's our all-pro secondary. We're going to flip over to special teams and do a little recap for our all-pro teams, our projections for 2025. You're not going to want to miss it right after this. All right, we've been rolling through our projections for the 2025 all-pro team. We've hit every position, Kyle, except special teams. Where last year,
Oh yeah.
it was Chris Boswell, your place kicker, Jack Fox of the Detroit Lions, your punter, kick returner was Cavante Turpin, punt returner was Marvin Mims, special teamer was Brendan Schooler, and then your long snapper was Andrew DiPaolo of the Minnesota Vikings. We went and asked our resident special teams expert, John Breach, for his picks for this, because as much as we love ball, as much as we scout ball,
We don't love it this
spend
much.
a lot of time on special teams. We don't love it that much. We tend, we're humble enough, humility enough. I don't know what I'm trying to say, to go to experts, to lean on experts for things like this. So our picks being John Breach's picks. Andrew DiPaolo's back. Yet another long snapper, all pro for him. Congrats. Jack Fox at punter for the Detroit Lions. Brandon Aubrey gets it this year at place kicker. One of the biggest legs, if not the biggest, domer for the Dallas Cowboys. Cam Little's a dark horse, though. He hit 70 in preseason. He only missed 2 kicks last year for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He could be the guy if they score a ton of points. Kick returner, Malik Washington. Punt returner, Darius Davis. There you have it. John Breach's picks for special teams.
Thank you, John.
To recap our teams, and then we're going to get some picks of guys who could be breakout stars, or maybe guys who haven't gotten their due yet, who could be on this list that we didn't quite pick. But to recap, quarterback, you went Lamar Jackson. I went Joe Burrow. Running back, you went Saquon Barkley. I went Derrick Henry. Wide receiver, you went Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. I went Jamar Chase, Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. Tight end, we both agreed on Brock Bowers. Offensive line, we went Tristan Wirfs. You went for left tackle. I went Laramie Tunsil. Joe Tooney for left guard. I went Tyler Smith. Creed Humphrey for center. We agreed. Quinn Miners right guard. We agreed. Lane Johnson right tackle. We agreed. Defensive line, Myles Garrett, TJ Watt. You went. I went Myles Garrett, Aiden Hutchinson. Interior defensive line, Chris Jones and Dexter Lawrence. Agreed on both of those. Fred Warner, Roquan Smith, Zach Bond were your picks for linebacker. I went Fred Warner, Zach Bond, Edrin Cooper. And then finally, our secondary, PS2, Derek Stingley, Trent McDuffie at corners for you. PS2, Jair Alexander, Cooper DeJean for me. And then safety, Xavier McKinney, Kyle Hamilton. I went Brian Branch and Kyle Hamilton. Whew, that was a mouthful. Who you got for me, though? Who you got as your pick for a breakout guy, under the radar guy, maybe someone who hasn't gotten their due that we think could make this list that hasn't?
Well, I would say it's Nico Collins. And you take a look at what he did in an abbreviated season last year, and he was burning brighter than anyone. And I know Jamar Chase had an unbelievable season, but if Nico Collins were to remain healthy, I don't know how many yards he would have had. I think he had 12 games, like 1,200 yards or something ridiculous like that, 68 catches. Nick Caley in Houston, CJ Stroud. Stella's going to get her groove back this fall, and CJ Stroud's going to be throwing it to Nico Collins a lot. I could see him making this list.
Yeah, he had the third best yards per route figure in the NFL last year. Obviously, just the yardage totals weren't there because he missed a ton of time. And now, Tank Dell, we're not going to be playing this year, unfortunately. The offensive line, hopefully better this year. So it really is Nico's offense. I think it is going to run through him. I have a few guys I want to mention. I want to give some shout outs around the league. I think Jared Verse of the Los Angeles Rams had one of the best rookie seasons an edge rusher's ever had. If he takes any sort of step forward. Now, he was a fifth-year guy coming out, a unique prospect in that most top edge rushing guys are third-year guys, right? Most guys come after their junior year. You see the talent right away. They come out, and then you get this developmental curve that's like a better. Not necessarily sure if that's going to happen with Verse because he was already on the older side coming out. But even if he just repeats what he did last year with more name
Yeah.
recognition now, very easily could win an All-Pro. I said on the right guard when we talked about Quinn Miners that Dominic Puny is poised to become one of the best right guards in the NFL. What we saw from him as a rookie was special. He could very well reach that, maybe not year 2, year 3 or 4, very well maybe in that mix. And then the last guy I want to give a shout out to, Lad McConkey. I think in that Chargers offense, now it's going to be super run heavy, but I think it's going to be effective at minimum, whatever they're doing. And that means more touchdowns. And if you're looking at reliability in this Chargers offense right now, it's either like a rookie Trey Harris, it's Quentin Johnston, who's never been reliable, it's a Keenan Allen, who's like my age, or it's Lad McConkey, who had the 9th most receiving yards in the NFL as a rookie. I think Lad McConkey's just going to have a monster season. I think those 3 guys are my picks.
And I read somewhere that Justin Herbert is dating Madison Beer, so that might end up being the tide that rises all ships.
Is this his All-Pro season?
Maybe Justin Herbert. Maybe Justin Herbert. They create another award, higher than All-Pro.
Did you back in your day? Was it just guards? Was it just guard as a whole, or did they do left guard, right guard? When did they do that split?
I believe it was just guard. I don't remember when they did the split because obviously I was off the list and I wasn't really checking it annually. But yeah, it's nice to see that you're not just having 2 left tackles. You're not just having 2 left guards. There's representation everywhere. And we even covered the specialists here.
And I want to get your last take on this and then we'll get out of here. The Pro Bowl versus All-Pro. It kills me what they've done to the Pro Bowl because not the game itself, but seemingly that the voting and how it's done. I feel like Pro Bowls used to mean something. When a guy came in the end of his career, he had 10 Pro Bowls. You're like, okay, that guy's a Hall of Famer. I feel like the Pro Bowl has been so diminished with no one going to the game. And then people getting these, I don't want to say pity invites, but like Tyler Huntley has a Pro Bowl on his record.
They have to fill the roster, right?
Yes.
And if I remember it was like Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, they ain't coming. Andy Dalton was on a plane the day before the game. I'll compare it to this. I always see these lists online that are like 50 business people under 50, 50 under 20, 20 under 20. And like you start seeing so many of these lists, you're like, how many of these people are there? There's thousands of them, obviously. It's the same kind of feeling I have with the Pro Bowl. It's like inflation. It just doesn't matter anymore. All pro, in my opinion, and a lot of guys who play, is the one that you look at. And that's the one that you can really study and say, these are the guys.
Yeah, I do think as much as the Pro Bowl has become a joke, I think the All-Pro has gotten very good. I think the All-Pro, they've selected a votership that cares. They've selected a votership that pays attention. Maybe they're not the guys deep in the weeds watching every single game, but at least they're respecting the opinions of those people that are in there watching every single game. And I think there's been, with the proliferation of all 22, with the ability for people at home to come to their own conclusions, to watch the tape. And if you're, well-versed enough, if you're educated enough in the game of football, you can know what people are supposed to do on most plays. It's not this black box thing. So I think as I've, from gotten into this business back in 2012 till now, I've seen an increase in the quality of all pro selections, which is, I think, good for the game of football. No one wants the guys who get there on reputation alone, which used to be kind of the MO of teams in the past.
Yeah, guys are grandfathered in based on their performance historically. I mean, at numerous points in this, I've said, do you remember this guy? Well, he made it 8 years in a row. Look, if you play well, you're going to be on these lists.
All right, there you have it. Our All-Pro team. We will be back next week, Monday, 9:30 a.m. Eastern, pushing the pile. Come check us out. Until then, keep pushing.